I have Senator Cruz on the line, a Republican from Texas. He's also got a new book out, which we will discuss momentarily. One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History, which is a great title. Senator, it's great to have you on. By way of segue, I was just playing some clips of the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, and just painting this picture of America as this horrifically racist place, but the Black Lives Matter Antifa movement as incredibly peaceful, all about racial solidarity. Do you think anyone is buying this message? Because I'm afraid they are. That's the thing that I fear.
Well, they're certainly hoping that the typical voter will not notice how angry and extreme and radicalized the far left is, and
Yes.
it's the reason the news every day is so shameless with fake news. It's the reason why the coverage every day is peaceful protest, peaceful protest. I mean, you remember the CNN chyron of fiery but peaceful protest of a reporter literally in front of a building on fire. There's a reason they do it, which is they think that people who may not be paying all that much attention that the propaganda works, and they're simultaneously trying to inflame racial divisions and enrage people on racial lines, and at the same time convince other voters who are not paying close attention that there's nothing to see here, don't worry about it at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And one thing I'm very pleased by, which has been a big change over the last 4 years or 5 years, really, and you've been a big part of this, is getting the mainstream of the Republican Party to start warning about the radical left. This was a big objection folks like Breitbart have had with the Republican establishment over the years, is that they have not taken the wood to the left, so to speak. Now everyone does. And I think that's really terrific. It's a big development. And regardless of what happens in November, it has been reset that the Republicans are expected to warn America about the encroaching leftism.
Undoubtedly. And as the left has gotten angrier and more filled with rage and really filled with hate, the defining characteristic of the left today is hatred of Donald Trump. That is the unifying thread through the Democratic side. And I will say I agree with you that we're seeing more Republicans who are willing to actually stand up and at least begin to fight. That is a major improvement from where we started. And far too often the left goes into battles with deadly seriousness. And the right treats it like a croquet match out on the front lawn, and that's a bad formula for success.
Absolutely. And you have an ad out which is made the rounds a lot. It's getting a lot of virality on social media right now, where you talk about the stakes in November. And this is a good segue to the book because court packing comes up a lot. Let's talk about the stakes, and then we'll move towards talking about what's happening in the judiciary right now. But let's talk about the stakes. What happens if you turn over power to particularly Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but then potentially even the Senate hangs in the balance? Set the stage for us.
Well, I think the presidency and the Senate go hand in hand. I think we are likely to either win them both or lose them both. So if we wake up in January of next year and Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer are running the federal government, I think the three of them would do more damage in 2 years than Obama did in 8. What would that mean? Well, one of the very first things that Schumer would do is end the filibuster in the Senate. That means then the Senate minority can do nothing, zero, to stop their radical agenda from being implemented. I think one of the first things Schumer would do after that is move to admit 2 new states to the United States, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. And the reason they want to do that, they're quite naked and crass about it. The Democrats believe those jurisdictions would elect 4 new Democratic senators. So we could start January with 50 Democratic senators, and we could end the year with 54. And their focus is going to be entrenching power and making it very, very difficult for it ever to be taken away. We would then see massive tax increases, not just repealing the Trump tax cuts, but massive tax increases across the board. We'd see the Green New Deal, which is estimated to cost $93 trillion, $65,000 per household in America. we would see massive amnesty, again, because they want to entrench their power. And in terms of the Supreme Court, I think we would see Democrats moving quickly to pack the court, to expand the court from 9 justices either to 11 or to 13, so that they can go into next year with an extreme left majority, political majority that they just created on the court.
And how do you think that would be received by the public? Do you think the public would go along with it? Because I do feel like that's the sort of thing that would really, not to say our political debate is less than toxic at this point, Senator, but it just seems like that could set the country ablaze.
You know what? If the public just elected Biden, Schumer, and Pelosi, I think the public would yawn at it. I mean,
wow.
Right now, how do you think violent riots in our cities and burning our cities to the ground and moving to abolish police would be received by the public? In any sane or rational world, people would say, "Are you out of your mind?" Like abolishing
that's a good point.
police is not a reasonable argument in the sort of spectrum of arguments. It is a radical Marxist leftist idea to destroy society, and the media engages in pure propaganda. So if they're packing the court, you got to remember CNN every day would say, well, this is a justifiable response to the appointment of Amy Barrett, and this is only reasonable and reciprocal. And, of course, I mean, they would be justified. If they even covered it, they'd have a combination of rationalizing and justifying and ignoring it. And, you know, that is the stakes. I have never seen the stakes as high as they are this year on election.
Wow. It's amazing because I really, I just find that argument very convincing. It was not before you made it. I don't know if I was on the fence, but that is very, very scary stuff. Again, Senator Ted Cruz, are you concerned? How concerned are you about election integrity? And this is something we're spending a lot of time on the show. And I'm talking about 2 things in particular: a vote by mail, or as we call it, cheat by mail at Breitbart, and also another issue where you're pretty sharp on, though it seems like there's very little that's actually gets done about this, which is tech censorship in the way the Silicon Valley tech giants could be manipulating their functionality and their platforms in order to turn out the vote for certain people and not others, suppress information and not other information. Do either of these bother you? What's on your mind in this regard?
I'm very worried about both. Both are happening, and both are getting much, much worse. On the voter fraud side, voter fraud is a serious problem. Voting by mail is more susceptible to voter fraud. And in this election, the hard left is so enraged that they're willing to rationalize the ends justify the means, that anything is justified to defeat Trump, including lying, cheating, and stealing along the way. And I think we're going to have a real issue where we have prosecutors who can be on top of it. They need to be on top of it and preventing it. But where you have Democratic jurisdictions where the Democrats are controlling the state or the city, it's going to be a real threat. And the simplest answer at this point, we're less than a month out now, we've got to win by a big enough margin that the Democrats can't steal it because they're going to try. On the second point, big tech censorship is, I think, the single greatest threat to free speech and democracy in the country today. There are a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires who have amassed more power than ever seen before over information, over the public square, over discourse. And big tech is shamelessly silencing and censoring conservatives, censoring libertarians, censoring Trump supporters, censoring pro-Israel supporters, censoring pro-life supporters, censoring any views that they disagree with. And I chair the Constitution Subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I've chaired a series of hearings on big tech censorship. One of the witnesses who testified before the hearings was Dr. Robert Epstein, who's a very respected psychologist. He did empirical analysis of Google in 2016. He concluded that manipulated and biased search results on Google shifted 2.6 million votes to Hillary Clinton. Now, what's interesting and amazing about Dr. Epstein is not a Republican. He's a liberal Democrat who voted for Hillary Clinton and openly supported her. But he nonetheless was outraged that a giant Silicon Valley company was putting their finger on the scale and actively manipulating the election outcome. He also predicted in 2020, if they continue and accelerate what they're doing, they could shift 10 to 15 million votes to Joe Biden. That's what we're facing, and they are leaning in with all of their might. Silicon Valley is mad that Trump was elected, and so, yes, they are silencing us right now. And that means we need to work harder. At this point, we're less than a month out from the election, so a 3-year study project ain't going to do it.
That's right.
We've got to mobilize and communicate despite their power and lies and manipulations, and then we need the seriousness of purpose within the administration to bring enforcement actions and prosecution actions, which I have been urging the president and the attorney general and the administration to do for 4 years.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for being on Breitbart News Daily, sir. Really appreciate it.